The rain battered the windshield. A relentless drumbeat that drowned out the world beyond the car. I was 24. Stuck in a life that felt like a borrowed jacket, too tight. Too foreign. Too wrong. Then his hand, warm and trembling, found mine on the gear shift. And everything I thought I knew about myself shattered. My name is Ethan Caldwell. And I grew up in a small Ohio town where the sky seemed too big for the secrets we kept beneath it. It was 2018, and I was home from college for the summer, working odd jobs to save up for grad school. My older brother, Jake, was the golden boy, charming, athletic, the kind of guy who could make anyone laugh. His best friend, Lucas Harper, was the opposite, quiet, intense, with eyes that seemed to see through you. They'd been inseparable since high school, and I'd always been the tag-along kid brother, tolerated but never truly seen. Until that night. Lucas had missed his ride after a late-night hangout at our place. Jake, half drunk and sprawled on the couch, waved me off when I offered to drive Lucas home. Take him, Ethan. Don't make the guy walk in this storm. So there we were, in my beat-up Honda, the air thick with the smell of wet asphalt and something unspoken. Lucas sat in the passenger seat, his hoodie damp, his breath fogging the window. I kept my eyes on the road, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. You don't have to do this, Lucas said, his voice low, almost lost in the rain. I could have walked. It's fine, I replied, too quickly. My heart was pounding, though I couldn't say why. Maybe it was the way he looked at Minute, like Jake's little brother, but like someone he was trying to figure out. We drove in silence for a while, the tension building like a storm within a storm. Then, at a red light, his hand brushed mine. It wasn't an accident. His fingers lingered, tentative but deliberate. And when I didn't pull away, he pressed his palm against my knuckles. My breath caught. The light turned green, but I couldn't move. I turned to him, and his eyes, those damn eyes, held a question I wasn't ready to answer. Ethan, he whispered, and my name sounded like a confession. I've wanted to do that for a long time. I should have laughed it off, made a joke, anything to keep the world as it was. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because deep down, in a place I'd buried under years of denial, I'd wanted it too. The next few days were a blur of stolen glances and awkward silences. Lucas didn't bring it up again, and neither did I. But every time he was around, my skin felt too tight, my thoughts too loud. Jake noticed something was off, kept asking if I was okay, his brow furrowing in that big brother way. I lied, said it was just stress. How could I tell him the truth? That his best friend had cracked open something in me I didn't know how to name. Our town wasn't kind to people like me or people like Lucas, if he was who I thought he was. Growing up, I'd heard the slurs tossed around like casual greetings, seen the way kids got ostracized for being different. My parents, good people but set in their ways, went to a church that preached love but whispered judgment. I'd spent my whole life trying to fit their mold, to be the son they expected. But Lucas's touch had ignited something I couldn't smother. One evening, I found Lucas alone on our back porch, staring at the stars. Jake was inside, arguing with our dad about football. I hesitated, then sat beside him, the wooden boards creaking under my weight. You okay? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't look at me. I don't know how to do this, he said. Be around you and pretend nothing's changed. My stomach twisted. What's changed? Lucas. He turned then, his eyes searching mine. Everything. That night, we talked until the sky lightened. He told me about his childhood, how he'd known he was gay since he was 13, but kept it locked away. He told me about the fear of losing Jake's friendship, of being cast out by a town that didn't forgive. I listened, my own fears spilling out in return how I'd never let myself think too hard about why I'd never dated. Why I'd always felt like I was hiding. By the time the sun rose, we were sitting closer, our shoulders brushing, and I knew I was falling. But falling wasn't safe. Not here. Not with Lucas, who was tied to my brother, to our family, to a life that didn't make room for us. I drove him home again that morning. And this time, when his hand found mine, I didn't hesitate. I squeezed back, my heart racing with something like hope. The days after that night felt like walking a tightrope. Every glance Lucas and I shared was a risk. Every touch a rebellion. I started finding excuses to be around him, offering to grab coffee when Jake invited him over, lingering in the kitchen when he stayed for dinner. He noticed, and the way his lips curved into a shy smile made my chest ache. But secrets don't stay buried in a town like ours. One afternoon, I caught Jake watching us, his eyes narrowing as Lucas laughed at something I said. "What's with you two?" he asked, half joking, half suspicious. I shrugged it off, but my pulse spiked. Lucas changed the subject, but the air felt heavier after that. I started to notice things I hadn't before: the way people looked at Lucas when he walked through town, the whispers that followed him. He'd always been quiet, but now I saw the weight behind it. He wasn't just Jake's friend. He was a guy who'd learned to keep his head down. And me, I was still figuring out who I was. Caught between the Ethan my family knew and the one who woke up thinking about Lucas's hand on mine. One night, we slipped away to a diner on the edge of town, a place where the lights buzzed and the coffee tasted like regret. We sat in a corner booth, our knees brushing under the table. "What are we doing, Ethan?" Lucas asked, his voice soft but urgent. "This, us, it's not simple." "I know," I said, staring at my untouched coffee. "But I don't want to stop." He reached across the table, his fingers grazing mine. "Neither do I. But if Jake finds out, or your parents," he trailed off, his jaw tight. "I've seen what happens when people like us get found out." I wanted to tell him it would be okay, that we could figure it out. But the words stuck in my throat. I'd heard the stories: two kids disowned, families fractured. Still, when he looked at me, I felt like I could face anything. That night, I drove him home again, but we didn't go straight to his place. We parked by an old quarry, the moonlight glinting off the water below. "Tell me something real," Lucas said, his voice barely audible over the crickets. "Something you've never told anyone." I hesitated, then let it spill. "I'm scared all the time. Scared I'll never be enough for my family, for this town. Scared I'll lose you before I even have you." He turned to me, his eyes shining. "You have me, Ethan. You've had me for longer than you know." We kissed then, under the stars, and it was like the world remade itself. His lips were soft, urgent, and for the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But even as I held him, "Fear not at me. This wasn't just about you, it was about everyone we loved. Everyone who could turn away." The next morning, Jake cornered me in the garage. "You're acting weird," he said, his arms crossed. "And Lucas is too. What's going on?" "Nothing," I lied, my heart hammering. "Just, summer's been long. You know." He didn't buy it. I could see it in the way his jaw clenched, the way he looked at me like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "Don't bullshit me, Ethan. You're my brother. If something's up, tell me." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But the words wouldn't come. Not yet. The summer stretched on, each day a mix of exhilaration and dread. Lucas and I stole moments whenever we cootled late-night drives, quiet walks by the river, whispered conversations in the shadows. Every touch felt like a victory. Every kiss a defiance of the world we lived in. But the weight of secrecy grew heavier, pressing against my chest like a stone. Jake's suspicion didn't fade. He started watching us closer, his jokes turning sharp. One night, he caught us laughing in the backyard, our hands brushing as we passed a beer bottle back and forth. "You guys are like a married couple," he said, but his tone wasn't playful. Lucas froze, and I forced a laugh. But the moment hung between us like a warning. I started to see the cracks in our town's facade. The church sermons got louder, the gossip sharper. A kid from our high school, openly gay, had left town after his family turned their backs on him. People talked about it like it was his fault, like he'd chosen to be a pariah. I wondered how long Lucas and I could keep this up before someone noticed. One evening, Lucas showed up at my door, his face pale. "My dad found a letter I wrote," he said, his voice shaking. "It wasn't to you. Just thoughts. About me. About us." My stomach dropped. What did he say? He didn't say anything. Just looked at me like I was a stranger. Lucas's eyes were red-rimmed, and I pulled him inside, glancing around to make sure no one saw. We sat on my bed, the door locked, and he told me how his dad had always been distant but now felt like an enemy. "If he tells anyone, Ethan, I don't know what I'll do." I held his hand, my thumb tracing circles on his skin. "We'll figure it out. Together." But the fear was real now. Tangible. We weren't just hiding from Jake or my parents, we're hiding from a town that could destroy us. That night, we made a plan: save enough money, finish the summer, then leave. Maybe to a city, somewhere we could be ourselves. It was a fragile dream, but it was ours. The next day, Jake invited us to a bonfire with some of his old high school friends. I didn't want to go, but Lucas insisted. "If we act normal, he'll stop suspecting," he said. So we went, and I watched Lucas play the part of the carefree friend, laughing and joking like nothing was wrong. But I saw the strain in his eyes, the way he flinched when someone mentioned the kid who'd left town. As the fire crackled, Jake pulled me aside. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice low. "About Lucas." My heart stopped. "What about him?" He hesitated, then looked me dead in the eye. "Is he okay? He's been weird lately. And you're always with him." I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "He's fine, Jake. Just going through some stuff." He didn't push, but I knew he wasn't convinced. As we walked back to the fire, I caught Lucas's eye, and for a moment, we were the only two people in the world. But the world was watching, and it was only a matter of time. Time started to feel like a ticking clock. Lucas and I grew bolder, stealing kisses in the car, holding hands in the dark. But every moment of joy came with a shadow of fear. I started noticing things: neighbors glancing too long, my mom asking why I was out so late. The town felt smaller, its walls closing in. One night, we went to a bar outside town, a place where no one knew us. For a few hours, we were just two guys, laughing, dancing, free. Lucas's smile was brighter than I'd ever seen, and when he pulled me close on the dance floor, I forgot about the world outside. But when we left, a group of guys from our town was in the parking lot. They didn't say anything, but their stares burned. The next day, Jake was waiting for me in the kitchen. "Where were you last night?" he asked, his voice tight. "Out," I said, avoiding his eyes. "With Lucas?" I nodded, my throat dry. He leaned forward, his hands gripping the table. "Ethan, I'm not stupid. I know something's going on. Just tell me." I wanted to tell him everything, to unload the weight of my secret, to trust my brother. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I shook my head and walked away, leaving him staring after me. That night, Lucas and I met at the quarry again. He was quieter than usual, his shoulders hunched. My dad's been asking questions, he said. He thinks I'm hiding something. What did you tell him? Nothing. But he's not letting it go. He looked at me, his eyes pleading. Ethan, if this goes wrong, I lose everything. My family. My home. We won't let that happen, I said, but my voice sounded hollow. I pulled him into my arms, and we stood there, the night wrapping around us like a shield. But shields break, and ours was about to. The next morning, I woke to a text from Jake. We need to talk. Now. My heart sank. I found him in the living room, his face pale. I saw you, he said. Last night. At the quarry. My blood ran cold. Jake. Don't lie to me. He snapped. You and Lucas. I saw you kissing. The room spun. I tried to speak, but my voice failed. Jake stood, pacing. How long? Ethan, how long have you been lying to me? It's not like that. I managed. I didn't know how to tell you. He stopped, his eyes blazing. You're my brother. You're supposed to trust me. I do, I said, my voice breaking. But I was scared. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then, quietly, he asked, Are you gay? I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. Yeah, I think I am. He sat down hard, his head in his hands. I need time, he said finally. I just need time. Jake's silence was worse than his anger. For days, he barely looked at me, his jaw tight whenever Lucas was around. I felt like I was losing my brother, and the guilt was suffocating. Lucas, meanwhile, was unraveling. His dad had started checking his phone, his whereabouts. We stopped meeting in public, sticking to hidden corners and late-night drives. One evening, I found Lucas at the quarry, his eyes red from crying. He knows, he said, his voice barely audible. My dad. He confronted me today. What happened? I asked, my heart racing. He called me things, said I was a disappointment. He choked on the words, and I pulled him close, my own fear mirroring his. He wants me to leave. Ethan, said I'm not welcome anymore. I held him tighter, anger burning in my chest. You're not alone, I said. You have me. But words weren't enough. We needed a plan, and fast. I started looking for jobs in Columbus, a city big enough to disappear in. Lucas applied too, but his dad's threats hung over us. One night, he showed up at my house with a backpack, his face bruised. He hit me. He whispered, I can't go back. I brought him inside, my parents asleep upstairs. We sat in my room, his head on my shoulder. We'll leave, I said. Soon. I promise. But promises are fragile. The next day, my mom cornered me. What's going on with Lucas? She asked. He's been here too much. People are talking. Let them talk. I snapped. My patience gone. Her eyes widened, and I realized I'd said too much. The truth was clawing its way out, and I wasn't ready. That night, Jake came to my room. I've been thinking, he said, his voice softer. About you and Lucas. I don't get it. But you're my brother. I don't want to lose you. Tears pricked my eyes. You're not losing me, I said. I'm still me. He nodded, but I could see the struggle in his eyes. Just be careful. Okay. This town doesn't take kindly to this. He was right. The next day, Lucas's dad showed up at our house, his face red with rage. "Where's my son?" he demanded. My dad tried to calm him, but the truth spilled out in shouted accusations. By the time he left, my parents were looking at me like I was a stranger. The fallout was swift. My parents sat me down, their faces a mix of confusion and disappointment. "Is it true?" my mom asked, her voice trembling. "You and Lucas?" I nodded, my throat tight. "I love him." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. My dad stood, pacing. "This isn't what we raised you for. Ethan, this isn't right." "It's who I am," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "I'm not ashamed." They didn't kick me out, but the distance between us grew. Lucas was staying with a friend now, his dad having thrown him out. We met in secret, planning our escape. But the town was closing and rumors spread, and old friends stopped calling. Jake was the only one who stood by me, his loyalty a lifeline. One night, we went to the quarry, our sanctuary. "I'm scared," Lucas admitted, his voice small. "What if we can't make it?" "We will," I said, though I wasn't sure. "We have to." He kissed me, desperate and fierce. And for a moment, the world was ours again. But the moment shattered when headlights cut through the dark. It was Lucas's dad, his face twisted with rage. "Get away from him," he shouted, storming toward us. I stepped in front of Lucas, my heart pounding. "Leave him alone," I said. He grabbed Lucas, dragging him toward the car. I lunged, pulling him back. And for a moment, it was chaos, shouting, shoving, fear. Jake appeared out of nowhere, his truck screeching to a stop. "Stop it," he yelled, pulling Lucas's dad off. "He's your son." The fight drained out of the night, leaving us all raw. Lucas's dad left, but not before spitting words that cut deeper than any fist. Jake drove us back, silent but steady. "You guys need to go," he said finally. "This town, it's not safe." We left 2 weeks later, our bags packed, our savings scraped together. Columbus was our destination, a city where we could start over. Jake drove us to the bus station, his eyes red but resolute. "Call me," he said, hugging me tight. "You're still my brother." The bus ride was quiet, Lucas's hand in mine the whole way. We didn't talk about the future. Not yet. We were too raw, too bruised by the past. But when we stepped off the bus, the city felt like a promising chance to be us. Unapologetically. Our first apartment was small, the walls thin, but it was ours. Lucas got a job at a coffee shop. I found work at a bookstore. We built a life, piece by piece, learning each other in ways we couldn't before. There were fights, tears, moments when the weight of what we'd left behind threatened to break us. But there were also mornings tangled in sheets, evenings laughing over cheap wine, nights where we dreamed out loud. The town we'd left didn't forget us. Letters came, some kind, some cruel. My parents wrote once, asking me to come home, to fix things. I didn't reply. Jake visited when he could, his presence a reminder that family wasn't lost, just redefined. One night, Lucas and I sat on our tiny balcony, the city lights sprawling below. "Do you regret it?" he asked, his voice soft. "Never," I said, and I meant it. The pain, the low sit was worth it for this. For him. A year later, we were still in Columbus, stronger but not unscathed. The scars of our past lingered, Lucas's nightmares, my moments of doubt, but we faced them together. We found a community, people who saw us not as a scandal, but as a couple. as Ethan and Lucas. One evening, we went to a Pride event. Our first. The colors, the music, the joy, it was overwhelming. Lucas held my hand, his smile brighter than the lights. "This is what I dreamed of," he said. "A place where we don't have to hide." I kissed him, right there in the crowd. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. The world didn't end. No one stared. We were just two people in love. And it was enough. Jake came to visit that summer, bringing news from home. Our parents were trying, he said, attending a support group, learning. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. Lucas's dad hadn't reached out. But Lucas was building a new familias. Our friends. The life we'd carved out. As we stood on our balcony that night, the city alive below, I realized something. The hand that had touched mine in that rain-soaked car had changed everything. It had broken me open, forced me to face who I was, who I loved. It had cost me, but it had given me a life that was mine, a love that was real. "Lucas," I said, turning to him. "Thank you." "For what?" he asked, his eyes soft. "For seeing me." He smiled, pulling me close. "Always." And as the stars blinked above, I knew we'd made it. Not to a perfect ending, but to a beginning one where we could be ourselves. Together. Unashamed.